Hi everybody, my name is Spike Brave, and in this video I'd like to give you a detailed look at the game settings that are available in MechWarrior Online. If you saw my overview, I pointed you to the right spot to go, but in this tutorial I will show you exactly how to use some of the features that are available in the game settings. So before we get started, I do want to say that you'll see what settings I have. This is by no means how you should set your settings. I have them set up the way I like them. Please set them up the way you like them. I just want to show you how. I will offer you some insight as to why I've chosen to set mine the way I do. If you do have questions, feel free to leave a note or a question in the comments below. I answer as best I can. And of course, as I'm doing the video, I'll tell you at least why I've done it the way I've done it. So let's get to the meat of the video. To get to the game settings, we come down here to the bottom right-hand corner where it says settings. As always, when we mouse over something, we get our helpful tooltip. And if we click on that, we go to the settings menu. By default, that's set to game settings. Now, if you're looking for help with audio, video, keyboard, or controller, as you can see, we have those as the options over here on the navigation pane on the left-hand side. Check out those specific tutorials. In this one, we're talking about the game setting, and fortunately enough, that's what it opens up to, so I don't have to do any navigation from here. So let's look at the three windows we have in the center. We have a game settings, a mouse settings, and a notification settings. So let's talk about the game settings first, and then we'll just work our way down. Okay, first thing is called arm lock. Your battle mech has a torso and arms. You aim the weapons that are mounted on your arms using one reticle, and the weapons that are mounted in your torso using another reticle. Now, the new tutorial they've just added to the game helps out a lot explaining that. If you're still unsure how that works, if you're in a clan mech, you'll have an ellipse in the center of your screen. If you're in a sphere mech, it'll be a circle, and that ellipse or circle indicates where your arms are pointed. In your sphere mech, you'll also see a plus, and in the clan mech, you'll see an X. That plus or X is where your where your torso-mounted weapons are pointed. By default, the arm lock is set on, so your arms stay with your torso. If you turn that off, your arms can move away from your torso, and you can get the full range of motion of your arms when aiming. So I think that's very useful to know. Keep in mind that you don't have to turn it off all the time. You can set up some keyboard bindings, and if you need some help with that, check out my keyboard tutorial. But that allows you to unlock your arms while you're pressing a key. I like to have mine unlocked all the time, and if I really need to bring my stuff together real quick, I hit that key to turn on the arm lock, and it'll slam them together real quick. That's how I use arm lock. Set it up the way that you see fit. The next thing is throttle decay. Again, this is on by default, and as you can see, our pop-up is telling us what it's doing, and it automatically decelerates you when you stop pressing the forward button. I don't like that. You might. However you want to set that up, complete matter of choice. I like to have my mech going forward when I'm not pressing those buttons, so I can use my fingers for other things on the keyboard. So that's how I've chosen to set mine up. The next one we see is start in third person. There's a third person drone behind your mech. If you've not been out here, you've seen it. If you have, well, I'm going to say even if you've been out here, you've seen it at least once because it's the default settings. Not everybody knows where it is. So you get this little drone behind your mech. I do not recommend using the third person view. As always, I do want to say that play the game how you want to play it, but you lose a ton of your HUD elements when you're in third person, and you can no longer unlock your arms. I think that makes the game very, very, very difficult to play. But if you prefer that, be my guest. But I do want to say that in good conscience, I can't tell you that's how you should play the game. You're limiting yourself. I know it can be tough to master the game, but in the end, it'll be worth it. But as always, do what you feel is best. But I just would feel remiss not telling you that it's probably not the best option available out there. The next thing we have is enable Cockpit Glass. If you click that, it'll look like you're looking out through glass when you're looking onto the battlefield. Some people think that's neat. It's good for immersion. I don't like that, and I don't think it works for immersion. Battle mechs don't have windows. That's something from lore. So however you feel about that, if it makes you feel better looking through glass, go ahead and take that. If not, turn it off. I have mine turned off for a reason, and that is because it does cost some performance for your graphics card to have to render that. So I recommend turning it off, especially if you're having FPS problems. So that's what the enable cockpit glass is for. The next thing we see is disable tooltips. Now this is the helpful pop-up. If I disable tooltips, turn this on, I don't get those pop-ups anymore. If you find all these pop-ups all the time obnoxious, turn it off. If you can't remember everything, leave it on. However you want to do that. You can hide your tier, so that's your player skill rating in the front end, so it won't pop up. I suppose they added that in for YouTubers like myself that don't want their player skill all over the internet because people make more about that than it is. Um, I guess since we're on the subject of PSR and I'm doing tutorials to help out new players, if you are strictly a solo player, do not worry about your PSR. It has a lot to do with whether you win or lose the match. That's like 50% of it. At least that's what I'm hearing. So if you're a straight solo player like me, uh, I lose some matches that had I been in a team, I might not have lost. So just keep that in mind. I don't think it's that big a deal to hide or show it. If anybody's curious, at the time I'm making this video, -3, moving up to 2. So that's been a little talk about how to hide your PSR tier in the front end. And then finally, the directional arrow. This is on by default, and it puts an arrow on the ground that indicates where your mech's legs are pointed. That can be very helpful for new players. I would say as soon as you don't need it, turn it off so it's less visual clutter. But as long as you need it, keep it on. The last thing we see in game settings is the first-person FOV slider, and that is field of vision. That is how far back it looks like you're sitting from the standpoint of the pilot. So play with this. Go out to the testing grounds. That's a good place to see how it looks before you actually join a match. And just mess with that however you like. I have mine set to 70. I think that looks the best. A lot of the other YouTubers I see do 75. Makes things look a little too far away in my opinion, but again, it's my opinion, whatever works for you. And then I have noticed that some of the more competitive players I've seen have it cranked all the way to 80, and I think that looks real. That looks like you're looking through a can in my opinion, but however you like to set it up there. So let's go on to the mouse settings. These are pretty simple. Here's where we find them, and they're exactly what they are in every other game or actually any other mouse setup. So you'll see sensitivity, and that's how sensitive it is. Now, I get a lot of comments when I do these videos. This, again, is a replacement. They've added some stuff. But almost every time I put out a video that talks about the game settings, somebody comments that I have my sensitivity cranked all the way up, and that must be bad. That can make it hard for certain people to aim. I tend to play fast mechs that twist and turn and run around a lot, and I'm in the enemy, so I like to be able to move real fast. And I also have a mouse. I have the Rat 7 mouse, and that gives me a button that I can click to turn my sensitivity way down. So that's what I do is I play with my sensitivity cranked all the way up so I can move my guns real fast, and if I really need to aim, I just hit that button and then it slows everything down. So that's why I have mine cranked all the way up. So keep that in mind. Whatever works in these settings, I recommend starting at the halfway point, going from there. Again, then we have the smooth and acceleration. That's just how smooth and how quickly the acceleration is read from your mouse. I just leave those at default, which is 0. And then finally we have the invert mouse y-axis, and that means if you're moving your mouse left, your battle mech will be moving right. Some people like that control scheme. I never have, but whatever works best for you, as always. And then finally, let's talk about the notification settings. So first of all, we can enable or disable our notification settings. So if you're playing a match and you get an achievement, it'll pop a little note during the match that says you got the achievement or not, depending on that. Enable team chat. By default, I believe this one is off. I do not recall anymore. Nope, team chat is on. This is for typing only. So this is, we hit whatever key you have bound to team chat and type into chat. That is on by default. Enable faction chat. This is for chatting when you're waiting for a match in Community Warfare. Reward display mode. Modern shows you the rewards you're earning across the bottom of the screen as you earn them. I believe the other mode is Classic. Yes, it is. Classic shows you all of your reward stuff where the chat is instead of at the bottom. Not really hugely different. I don't know why there's an option to pick it. I think some of the older players wanted to keep that because that's how it was when it first started and they got used to it. But that's where it goes if you have it set to Classic, is up in the left-hand corner with all the other chat. The next one is Enable All Chat. This one is off by default. This lets you talk to the enemy team by pressing whatever key you have it bound to. So that lets you talk to all the players in the match by typing. And then there's Enable Lance Chat. And that lets you talk to the members of your lance by hitting whatever key you have bound to that. And that is also enabled by default. So if you want to turn any of them off, just uncheck them and there you go. When you're done making any changes that you would like, hit the save button. We can hit the reset button if we'd like and it'll restore it to default. I don't want to do that. And of course we can always cancel and that'll take us back to the main screen like this. That's been a look at the game settings that are available in MechWarrior Online. As always, if you have a question, a comment, if there's something I missed, or you have an unrelated question, leave me a note in the comments to this video. I will address your statement as appropriate. And as always, have great luck on the battlefield. I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.